And on that note, I would literally like to pass the mic to this incredible generation of young people by introducing our next panel, which is on page 34 of your program books. The panel will be moderated by Rhea Coach Carey, a life coach and motivational speaker whose passion is to help others tap into their hidden confidence. Coach Carey will be chatting with some of the bright minds of the next generation about their experience in STEM, their thoughts on the education system, and what they want to see from industry and political leaders. So on that note, please welcome Hannah, Tanisha, and Zaynah to the stage. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Thank you. Okay, let's do this. Okay, thanks everybody for being here. It's been a great day, and we have some incredible young minds here. We did a little handshake before because we all realize that sometimes nerves can still hit us on the stage no matter how many times we've did it. So we thought that'd be a little thing to bring us all together. So I'm gonna let them take the floor and let's get started. And each of them are gonna tell us a little bit about, and then we'll go from there.
All right, so I'll start. I'm Tanisha. I'm 17 years old. In the past year, I've been super passionate about a technology called quantum computing. And it leverages quantum mechanics to be able to give exponentially large amount of computation power. And I think I've always been interested in physics and understanding how the world works. So that's where the fuel started. In the past year, I've had some really unique opportunities. I've been able to attend the world's first quantum computing hackathon in San Francisco, where I was exposed to the idea of quantum programming. And after that, I started to actually learn how to program these computers using softwares from IBM, Google, Microsoft, and etc. Then I was able to actually intern with Microsoft and work with them on the development side on small machine learning projects. Currently, I'm attending a grad course in quantum computing at U of T, and I have great mentors from the University of Toronto and Waterloo who helped me in my journey. And my goal is to continue learning about this technology so I can continue growing my knowledge and hopefully impact and solve really important problems.
Amazing. Wow. Just remind everyone how old you are.
I'm 17.
Okay, perfect. Keep going.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Hannah and I'm 18 years old and I'm super interested in genetic engineering. The ability where you can use CRISPR, a novel gene editing tool, to directly intervene with the human genomes and change its characteristics. So I've been working on a couple of projects. Last year, I got this wonderful opportunity to intern at the Westwood Lab at the University of Toronto, where I used CRISPR to reverse aging and double the lifespan of fruit flies. And hopefully we can apply this mechanism to humans one day.
Yes.
And I also worked at on anti-CRISPR, which is a mechanism to optimize the CRISPR system. And when I first came to Canada, I worked with a postdoc student at St. Michael's Hospital to create an artificial ear cartilage because I had this strong conviction that organs created in the lab would provide us with viable solutions for the organ transplantation shortage. And right now, I'm working with Ayan, who is a 14-year-old student, also at the Knowledge Society, to find a new way, specifically a wearable device that can help us to detect and treat cancer.
Yay.
I'm Zaynah, and I just turned 15 years old, and I'm really passionate about AI and virtual reality. And with AI, I've been developing a lot of AI algorithms and working with some really amazing companies like TD, CIBC, Microsoft, and Google. And I actually just started my own augmented reality company called Vital XR. So right now in schools, we're all learning through textbooks, right? So everything is 2D. And specifically with our human body systems and organs, these are actually 3D in real life. So I'm taking this experience and putting it into augmented reality so that students are able to learn and understand this, how it works a lot better. And I'm starting with organs and human body systems, but the goal is to do this for a lot of other things in science and technology.
So as you can see, we have some leaders and some big thinkers here. And at first, when Jody asked me to do this panel, I was like, oh yeah, of course, we'll have youth inspire the youth. But what I've come to realize, they're not here to inspire the youth. Okay, Tanisha, talk to me a little bit about how the quantum hackathon sort of shaped your growth and gave you some new tools.
So I started out by being fascinated by this technology, and I had to find resources on how to actually learn quantum mechanics, what it even means, and like the physics and the math. So a lot of it was just self-learned, like through finding textbooks that I could learn from, articles, videos. And then I had a unique opportunity where I learned about this company, Rigetti. It's a startup company that actually creates quantum computers in San Francisco. And they were holding a quantum computing hackathon. And me and two other students that I know who are also passionate about this technology actually reached out to them and were able to fly down and work actually against PhD level students to actually start building a solution and actually run it on their quantum computers. And I think that whole experience completely shaped how I thought about this field, how I can actually start creating actual solutions to problems right now. Even if the hardware is still developing, I can still learn how to program these quantum computers and see if I can find solutions that are near term. And I think the whole experience was completely mind-blowing, and it put me in a trajectory where I was able to believe in myself and continue to push myself into learning how this technology works and continue building applications.
Amazing. I love that. That's so important, that trajectory, right? Hannah, tell me a little bit about how when you moved to Canada at 16 on your own.
So I was originally born and raised in Vietnam, and I grew up with a deaf cousin, and what I realized was that he had to drop out of school when he was in grade 5 just because this problem with equity and accessibility in Vietnam. And I realized that if we are able to cure deafness and a lot of the other diseases that inflict so many people, millions to billions of people worldwide, then we would be able to increase human potential and can work together to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. So I was really inspired by that at age 12. So I started learning English with my mom, and then I spoke to a lot of people who are native speakers at my community center. I gave them free tours, and then that way I was able to refine my English for 4 years. And then I decided that since Vietnam didn't have enough resources for me to actually be in the lab and work on these solutions, I talked to my parents, and then I convinced them to let me move to Canada by myself because I really like, the socialist culture and how we have such a supportive community here. And I decided to move by myself to Canada when I was 16, and I went to high school, and I just cold emailed more than 50 professors, and I was able to get into a lab in the summer of grade 11.
Wow. So, yeah. When I think about what I was doing at 16, I'm just like, okay, cool. Yeah. There's some growth still to be made, right? Incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And tell me a little bit about what resonated with you about artificial intelligence and sort of why you wanted to make that your focus. And remind everyone how old you are.
Yeah, so I'm 15. And so I would say the reason that I started getting into technology was actually when I was in grade 6, I was part of my school's robotics team, and I was the only girl on that team, so there was 9 boys and me. And that was the main reason actually why I got into technology, because I was like, we need more women in technology. Why aren't there? Why am I the only one on this team? So that's how I started getting into robotics. And then all of us are part of a program called the Knowledge Society, which is a human accelerator for high school students. So they teach us about new technologies like AI, VR, quantum computing, genetic engineering. And so through there, I heard about artificial intelligence, and I realized that it can impact so many different industries, right? If we think about healthcare, if we think about agriculture, we can use AI pretty much anywhere. And so the reason that I got really interested in it was because of the huge impact that I believe I can create through the technology. And so that's really why I'm doing a lot of work with it, and I believe that it's really going to create such a big impact.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. I'm so inspired. Show of hands if anyone else here is inspired. That's for you. That's all for you, okay? So we're gonna wrap up a little bit. Unfortunately, we don't have too much time, but I have one last question for all of you, and anyone can answer this. And really, if you had a chance to sit down with any politicians or leaders, what would you say to them? What would you want them to know, or what changes would you like to see be made?
So, as we've been talking about the theme around technology, we know that the world is changing at an extremely fast pace. The next 10 years are gonna see a lot of exponential change in technologies and like problems being solved. And what we need to realize is that change is going to be driven by the young people in schools today. So I think it's super important that young people like me, Hannah, and Zaynah, and everyone else who's in high school or even younger get exposure to how the world will look like in 10, 20, 50 years. So we're prepared, because all the big problems we face today, like climate change, hunger, poverty, are all going to be solved by minds that are like a lot of my friends here and even younger. So I think it's super important that all these politicians, governments, everyone who's a leader in any industry knows how important it is to ignite the spark in really young people, so they're on a path where they can find their own passion and be able to realize what the world will look like in the next 10, 20 years and solve some really, really important problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to add to Tanisha's point, I think one important point that we need to remember is age is not a barrier. I remember when I first got to my high school in Canada, and I walked into my guidance counselor and I was like, "Hi, I'm Hannah, I'm a new student here, and I want to use genetic engineering to reverse aging." And as cool as the idea myself, what my guidance counselor told me was that, well, you have to wait like a couple of years, 5 years, 7 years, in order to get a master or PhD, then you can work on your thesis. But then the question that I asked myself at the time was, all adults tell me to wait, but the real question is why? If a 5-year-old student want to go to Mars, or a 10-year-old kid wants to be a robot that will help humanity survive on Mars, we often say, well, you can learn more in high school and university, and then you can do that. But then I realized that life gets busier, and we often forget our passions when we were younger. And as we grow older, we become more complacent with ideas that we think are impossible. So I think it's super important to nurture this passion and to ignite the curiosity in both adults and children, so that together, not only 1% of the world's population is working on the world's biggest problems, but we can increase that number to 40, 50, 60%. Because it's always about a movement, and we should never be stagnant. Mm-hmm. And the first step is to overcome this age barrier.
Yeah.
Just make it quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think that having and creating experiences, unique experiences for young students is really important. So this summer, I actually interned at CIBC Digital. I was creating an augmented reality app for them. And that experience was something really amazing, right? Which other high school students besides us here have had the experience to work at some really big companies? Like Tanisha interned at Microsoft, I interned at CIBC, right? And so I think we need to get more leaders to encourage these opportunities and get more high school students in the doors of these big companies, so that they're able to get new experiences and learn how the real world actually works.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One more round of applause. And like we said in the beginning, this panel for youth was not necessarily to inspire the youth, but to inspire all of you and all the adults. And age is not a number. Age is just a number. So it doesn't matter how old you are, young or old. If there's something you want to start, there's something you want to do, what should we do? Do it.
Do it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.